Good evening, Michigan. Welcome in. It is January 18th, 2026. My name is Joel, Chief Meteorologist of Michigan Storm Chasers. We've got a busy week coming up. First and foremost, feel free to drop a like, hit that follow button, let us know where you're watching from tonight, and if you can hear me all right. I will move my mic closer if I do not sound loud enough for you guys. Let us know where you're watching from. We'll go ahead and get started here real quick. While you guys are jumping in here and saying hello, this is what the current radar looks like across the state of Michigan right now. Got some snow moving in, got our clipper as forecasted moving in tonight along that cold front that is situated back there in the western portions of Wisconsin, eastern portions of Minnesota, and that clipper will move through overnight tonight into tomorrow. We'll go ahead and dive into what our models will look like here in just a second. It sounds like everyone is hearing me all right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So once again, the hot topics for this week are cold, snow, and wind. Pretty much everything that you see during the typical winter season, especially here in January in Michigan. Shout out to Josh and Jace, who are experiencing their first winter here in the United States. It is going to be a cold one this week, though. You guys want to bundle up, whether you're a native Michigander or visiting from out of state. It's going to be cold. Hypothermia is a risk this week. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But the first thing we want to go through tonight is projected radar over the next 48 hours. So as you know, we do have that clipper coming in tonight. We just saw on radar over in primarily Wisconsin. We do have lake effect snow ongoing already for portions of West Michigan and the UP. As we move into the overnight hours, this is going to be around 8 o'clock, so about an hour from now. Start to see that clipper move in. All that lighter blue you see down there on the south side of the state is the clipper. It doesn't show up too well on this model, but the NAM, which is the other model run, does have it pretty well, and I'll show you guys that as well in just a second. But this is as of 11 o'clock tonight, midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Tomorrow morning around 6 and then 7 and then 8 o'clock in the morning. You can see lake effect snow is going to be the primary concern all up and along the Lake Superior shoreline and all up and down the Lake Michigan shoreline, pretty much the entire length, due to the cold temperatures that are filtering in. It's allowing that change in temperature with height to produce more lake effect snow. Now the clipper is still hanging around over there on the east side of the state. You can see some light snow flurries moving through. Now we move towards noon on Monday, and these lake effect bands could extend across the state. Again, the winds tomorrow may be as high as 40 to 45 miles per hour, so that will bring that lake effect snow. It's light and fluffy in nature because it's so cold, all the way over to eastern Michigan. So as we move it forward, this is going to be closer to around the afternoon and evening time frame. So now we're around 4 o'clock. Now we're around 5 o'clock. It's going to be your evening commute. And you can see all across the state of Michigan have all these tiny little blue lines that extend across the state. And a change in wind direction by 1 degree could be the difference between whether or not you guys get an overachiever, so 3, 4, 5 inches when you're in the 1 to 3 zone, or maybe less than that. So these blue lines will move as the wind moves, and as you can see throughout the rest of the evening, those do continue to move. We get towards now 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock tomorrow evening, and it kind of resorts back to mostly lake effect snow, mostly lake effect snow on the west side of the state, I should say, just to clarify. And then we get into midnight on Tuesday morning, and the lake effect snow is still going on. Now, our forecast today did point out snowfall totals through Monday. Tomorrow morning, we will have a snowfall forecast out for additional snow to fall, essentially, and we will include Tuesday in that time frame. As you can see here, lake effect snow will be continuing into your Tuesday morning commute, although lighter in nature, because again, we do have those temperatures settling in. We get through Tuesday morning and then Tuesday around noon, and some of that snow, or most of that snow, starts to taper off because of how cold it gets out there. Now, I just did mention the NAM run, which is another short-term model run that we can use to look at reflectivity. We'll go ahead and do that as such. So the NAM has a better idea of the snow showing up on radar. So you can see as we get to 8 o'clock tonight, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and then once we get into the midnight time frame, all of that snow is spreading over pretty much across the entire state. You can see all of that blue is light to moderate snowfall. The darkest of blues, as you can see on the screen there, especially up there near the Keweenaw Peninsula, and of course in West Michigan, perhaps up there in Emmett County near Sheboygan. That is all very heavy snow. Snowfall rates could be over 0.75 inches per hour, maybe close to an inch per hour, for a little bit of time, not the entire event. As we fast forward into Monday morning, so now we're closer to 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 6 o'clock. Now you're heading off to work or maybe school tomorrow morning if you guys do have school. Now we get to 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Those snow bands are continuing across the entire state. So the HRRR and the NAM run, our 2 short model runs here, do agree that this snow will be lasting pretty much through the entire overnight hours. So no matter where you are in the state, light to moderate snow is ongoing with the heaviest of bands where the dark blue is showing. And as you can see, as we get into Monday afternoon, so once you get towards your evening commute, some of those moderate lake effect bands do extend all the way over to the east side of the state. So same story on both models. Lake effect snow continuing after the clipper moves through overnight tonight. As we get into Tuesday, it's the same story there. Our snow starts to taper off as it gets too cold for snow formation. That snow becomes very fine in nature, and of course with the winds out there, will just blow it around. It'll be tough to kind of measure that. Now real quick, if you guys want to measure snow with this event, feel free to put down a flat board in your yard away from objects that might interfere with your snow measurements. Make sure the board is clear. And if you lose your board in the yard, you want to make sure you have some sort of maybe indicator sticking next to the board so you know where it is so you can go out and measure it. So that's what we do here at Michigan Storm Chaser. Some of our staff, they put a board in the yard. You can go out and measure that way. Now, looking at the rest of our itinerary now, we have to go and talk about snowfall totals. Now, this is going to be a little comedic, but also at the same time, it's something to take note of. We'll go to the Kuchera run here on the 18Z from earlier this afternoon, and we'll go ahead and just fast forward it through this entire event. Something you notice is those totals are extremely high. In fact, we'll go through Tuesday morning there. You can see totals across the UP, well up towards the 2-foot range, across West Michigan, well above 10 inches. I will say this right now. It's possible, but because it is so cold, again, temperatures of around 1 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit, that's your kind of golden zone for snow to form. It will be almost too cold, temperatures at 0 or lower, for these heavier flakes to form. So the totals you see on the screen here, not likely to happen. This is kind of like the upper echelon of what could happen if it was perhaps a little bit warmer and the winds are kind of more aggressive. The best model to use in this situation is going to be the NDFD, which is from the National Weather Service. If we go ahead and back this up here and go through Tuesday morning, this is a better representation by far of taking those temperatures into account, that dendritic growth zone where that snow forms the best, a lot more shallow, a lot more fine flakes. It will still accumulate 6 to 12 inches across most of the Lake Michigan shoreline and portions of the central UP, but nothing like 2 feet. Some places will get above maybe 12 inches, but nothing really closer to 2 feet. So keep that in mind. This NDFD is a good reference to use if you are looking at this in your own spare time. And as a result, we do have a snowfall graphic that we released this morning for snowfall totals through the end of the day tomorrow. It did include today. If you are watching right now on the Sunday evening, these snowfall totals are from today and tomorrow. So some of that snow that's fallen today is on this graphic, 6 to 12 all up and down the Lake Michigan shoreline, portions of the Keweenaw Peninsula, up there near Grand Marais as well. In the blue, 3 to 7 inches. Down get to the cornflower blue, that's 2 to 4 inches. And then in the cyan is 1 to 3. And in that cyan, a note to take here is that there's isolated spots for greater than 3 inches because of that lake effect banding, making it across the entire state. Again, the further you get from Lake Michigan and Lake Superior, the harder it is to forecast lake effect snow. So there could be a couple of overachievers in that 1 to 3 zone, primarily across the Tri-Cities region, so Mount Pleasant over to Saginaw, and perhaps over into the Thumb, and even far down towards the I-96 corridor here in southeast Michigan. So that is our snowfall totals for this event through Monday. The next thing, temperatures. These are important because not only will it be cold in air temperature, it will be cold in the feels like temperature as well, or the wind chill. So we'll go ahead and switch over to just our normal temperatures. We'll take a look at those real quick. And as you can see, as we go into Monday morning, temperatures out there relatively in the single digits, most locations still in the teens. And as we get into late Monday, this is when the temperatures start to drop. As you can see, as we get into early Tuesday morning, our air temperatures are at or below 0 for many locations, especially where you see the white popping up there into the UP where those greens are. Those are actual temperatures of perhaps minus 15 degrees. Translate that over to your apparent temperature, which is your wind chill. This is the temperature that we feel on our bodies. Monday morning, again, wind chill is going to be in the negative single digits unless you're in the far western UP. Then we move into Tuesday morning, and those wind chills really start to plummet across the western UP. Minus 30 is possible on Tuesday morning. Now, the big question mark right now for Tuesday morning, so obviously tomorrow morning, wind chills primarily between 0 and minus 15. A couple spots in the upper peninsula, minus 20. But looking at Tuesday here, there are a couple spots, as you can see, in the middle of the lower peninsula where it could be below minus 20. Now, the factor that would prevent that from happening is our cloud cover. Again, the cloud cover acts as like a blanket during the winter season. Again, all of our solar radiation, it's not much during the winter, but we do get some. Those clouds act as an insulator, prevents that heat from rising back up into the atmosphere. So it keeps it close to the ground. And that's where you can see kind of this lake effect shadow down here in southwest Michigan where it's, minus 13. It's really cold, minus 13, minus 15 degree wind chills. But then you move away from the lakes where the clouds are starting to break up and you have minus 22, minus 23. You got there in St. John's, minus 25 for a wind chill. And those continue all the way over to the east side of the state. So that's something to keep in mind that we're watching the cloud cover closely. As it stands right now, we are expecting, besides the immediate lakeshore counties in West Michigan, so that would be Berrien, Van Buren, Allegan, Ottawa, Muskegon, Oceana, Mason, Benzie, Manistee, and Leelanau. All those counties may not get below minus 20 for wind chills on Tuesday. Everywhere else that I didn't mention does have a great chance at minus 20 or lower for wind chills on Tuesday, watching the cloud cover, of course. So we'll keep that in mind. We'll have an update on our page as needed throughout, or it'll be sometime tomorrow when we see perhaps some agreement on this. So if you're in the UP, it's going to be really, really cold no matter what. Again, those wind chills up there, as you can see, minus 36 perhaps up in your Marquette. You do want to bundle up. Again, hypothermia, frostbite at these temperatures, the wind chills, no matter what, is under 30 minutes. And in some places up there in the UP, it'll be in 15 minutes or less. So do take that in mind if you are traveling across, especially the UP, but also anywhere you go in Michigan, as especially move into Tuesday. The next thing is the winds. So the wind is primarily going to be gusting as we get overnight tonight and through Monday. So we'll go ahead and start it here at midnight tonight. As you can see, all the blues out there are relatively 20 to 30 mile per hour gusts. Not too bad. It might knock over your trash barrel if you have it out there. But as we move into the overnight hours, we get to 5 a.m. tomorrow. All that green you see on the screen there, 35 mile per hour gusts or higher are possible. And it just continues to ramp up as we get into Monday morning. So those wind chills will start to decrease. I'm thinking the opposite way here. They start to decrease throughout the day. And those winds are a direct result of that. So you can see common result here is going to be winds of 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts. A couple places, actually, if you back it up here, across West Michigan and Northwest Michigan and the central UP, could be gusting between 40 and 50 miles per hour, especially due to the lack of friction on the lakes and the positioning of our clipper with this system as it continues to move off to the east on Monday, so tomorrow. Now, as we move into Monday morning, another thing to keep in mind here is, again, the wind chill is calculated by your air temperature and the wind. So those two combined, there's some sort of funky formula that goes on. The wind is slightly displaced, meaning that our coldest temperatures aren't quite lining up with the heaviest of gusts. As you can see here, as we move this into midnight on Tuesday, most of our 35 mile per hour gusts are already exiting the state. And so as we get into Tuesday morning here, so this is 5 a.m., 6 a.m. when the kids are going out to the bus stop, a lot of the gusts across the state really just around that 20 mile per hour range. A couple spots up there along the West Michigan shoreline, 25 to 30. But this is good news because when these winds go down, that means our wind chill improves for us that are going outside. So because it's displaced, that's another factor to take in mind besides the cloud cover for Tuesday morning. So cloud cover and the fact that the winds are kind of already off to the east. So keep that in mind. As it stands right now, we're still keeping most of the state in the minus 20 degree wind chills for Tuesday morning. We'll let you know if we need to update that here at Michigan Storm Chasers on our Facebook page, Instagram page, and X page, where all our forecasts are situated. As a result, we also do have a wind graphic. That is what we have right there. Kind of lines up pretty well with the HRRR run. We also used a couple other mild runs that I'm not showing here, but this is what we got. So as you can see, 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts all across central UP, Northwest Michigan, and of course all the way down the West Michigan shoreline where the lack of friction comes into play down south towards Van Buren County. Anywhere across the lower peninsula, really in the 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts for tomorrow. It will feel cold. And of course, the less windy spots are going to be the eastern and the western UP, where 20 to 30 mile per hour gusts are the max. Next up, we also do have a traffic graphic. All this combined is going to provide for some hectic travel tomorrow. That's just the way it's going to be, especially in the morning. If you have morning plans, major traffic issues will be a problem. Again, this is just anticipated. Travel concerns are, I should say, travel delays will be 60 to 120 minutes in length if you are traveling up and down the Lake Michigan shoreline. Now, with this event, you guys have been seeing, the winter storm warnings come in, the winter weather advisories come in, and a lot of them are saying, it's 2 to 4 inches or maybe 5 to 8 inches. That's not really much of a winter storm. But again, it's the wind and the cold that come into play here that will reduce those visibilities, and it will actually cause near blizzard conditions for portions of West Michigan and the central UPs, especially anywhere you see major on this map in red. That's the greatest chance at near blizzard conditions, meaning sustained gusts of 25 to 30 miles per hour over a 3-hour period and visibilities down below a half a mile or even a quarter mile. So because it's not going to be sustained, that's why they did not option for a blizzard warning. They're very close to issuing a blizzard warning for this event, but they optioned not to because of the sustained gusts not quite being there. It'll still be gusty. You'll still be hitting that 35 to 40 mile per hour mark. It just won't be sustained at that point. So keep that in mind. Near blizzard conditions, if you're driving north-south roads as well, especially those rural roads, they will be drifted over in spots, so you do want to keep that in effect, or keep that in the back of your mind. Even if you're over on the east side of the state where 1 to 3 inches is possible, the wind's going to carry that snow. It's going to keep carrying it, keep carrying it. If you're driving those north-south back roads, you guys are very much familiar with those north-south back roads, especially over there around the Lansing area, over there in the Thumb as well. They get drifted over pretty quick, even with an inch of snow. So keep that in mind. No matter where you're traveling, drifting is possible. And if you're traveling up the Lake Michigan shoreline, pretty much along and west of US 131 tomorrow, especially in the morning, near blizzard conditions are possible. These traffic concerns do continue into the afternoon. Again, that clipper is going to be moving out as we get into the evening commute tomorrow, but obviously because it'll be going on pretty much most of the day, not much time to kind of clean off those roads. Main roads, they'll start to get tackled, but most back roads likely will not. So evening commute, just kind of plan for some of the same, especially if, of course, if you're along Lake Michigan. But as we transition into tomorrow evening, Monday evening, it'll primarily be just lake effect. So scattered impacts in orange, isolated impacts in yellow, and of course major impacts in red. We did not option for not advised. We were really close to, we were debating it for portions of the US 31 corridor, especially Muskegon, up towards Frankfort there along the Lake Michigan shoreline. But again, with a lack of a blizzard warning, kind of just held it to major impacts. Still going to be very tricky travel if you're traveling 31 in US 131 tomorrow. Next up, in terms of the short term, that's it for the short term. A couple last bits of information I want to share with you guys here real quick is primarily what's going on in the next 3 to 7 days. So we did post on our Facebook page a couple hours ago now, I believe it was around, I think it was like 4 o'clock this afternoon. We posted a 7-day outlook for 4 different regions in the state over on our Facebook page again. And you'll notice it stays cold. And it also is pretty snowy. So the reason being is because we do have continuous clippers. We still have that northwest flow moving through. So we're going to run through the reflectivity throughout the week. So this is your chance at precipitation between now and Sunday. So as we move this through, here is tomorrow. Clippers moving through, right behind it, lake effect snow Monday. Tuesday, lake effect snow. The next thing we have to watch after Tuesday lake effect snow is actually another clipper moving in for Wednesday. This is going to impact portions of Michigan likely early on Wednesday. As you can see here, this is 12Z, so that translates to about 7 a.m. Wednesday morning. So not much of a break between this lake effect snow and then the next clipper. So this will primarily be impacting portions of the lower peninsula. There could still be shifts. It's still about 60 hours away. So I would expect this to shift maybe a little bit in terms of where the heaviest will fall. Right now, it's looking like this is going to be just a kind of a moderate dump of perhaps 2 to 4 inches of snow. Enough to, of course, look up the roads again. So do keep that in mind if you plan on traveling on Wednesday. It's a quick hitter. As we get into the evening commute on Wednesday, most of that snow is pretty much gone, but we do still have backside lake effect snow moving through and perhaps another weak trough, which is kind of a different type of front that kind of runs up and down north to south meridional in the state, kicking up lake effect snow as we move through Thursday. And on Friday, that lake effect snow starts to taper off because next weekend, we have an Arctic blast coming in, this prolonged cold. You can see this 1048 high across Iowa. That is a very strong high pressure system. Very, very strong. And in fact, it's going to be very, very cold as we get into Saturday. That lake effect snow will struggle to stay together, but it will be cold as we move into Saturday and Sunday. And I can tell you guys right now, I didn't show the cloud cover, but it will be partly cloudy Saturday, Sunday, as it stands right now. So while the sun will be out, it will be very deceiving when it comes to standing outside. Think of, the times you go outside on a nice crisp morning and you do the boiling water challenge, essentially, where you throw the boiling water in the air and it turns into snow. If you want to do that, obviously be careful. Make sure you do it properly and make sure you throw it away from you. But when we get temperatures this cold that are this upcoming weekend, that'll be an experiment to try. So we'll go ahead and look at the projected temperatures for this upcoming weekend if we go back to the Euro run, and we'll go ahead and zoom out so you guys can see not only Michigan, but what it's going to look like across the Great Lakes. So we'll go ahead and click on temperature. Here we go. So as we move through Monday and Tuesday, as you can see, our normal air temperatures fairly cold. Then we get into Wednesday, it kind of rebounds a little bit. We get a little bit of a warm up in quotation marks, temperatures in the teens to 20s. Maybe, just maybe, we get to about freezing as we move into the Wednesday time frame. And then as we move into Thursday, it starts to get cold again. And then look at this. Here comes our cold air as we move into Friday. And those, again, are just the air temperatures. So this is not the feels like temperatures, just the normal air temperatures as we move into midday Friday. Temperatures in the minus 10s to minus 20s across the state. Saturday, more of the same. Air temperatures into the minus teens and minus 20s as well. And it'll continue as we move into the later half of next weekend. Another thing is, of course, we've got to check those wind chills for you guys, because, again, that is the temperature that we feel on our skin. So here's Tuesday, as you can see. Wind chills out there around minus 20 for the state. Those cool off as we get into Wednesday a little bit, or I should say warm up, going the opposite direction here. Wednesday, that's kind of our warmest day of the week. Then we move into Thursday, starts to cool down, especially across the western UP. Thursday night into Friday, this is where we start to see that Arctic air blast in. And all those pinks that you see right here on this map, that is temperatures of, or I should say wind chill temperatures of minus 50 or lower for portions of the Upper Peninsula. Primarily minus 40s, but there are chances at minus 50 for around the Gogebic and Iron County areas, which is right along that Michigan-Wisconsin border. And again, this wind is going to be gnarly. As you can see, all of these temperatures across the state, these feels like temperatures, will be close to minus 30 at times for next Friday. And on next Saturday, same thing. Although it's kind of shifting back to the north a little bit as it stands right now. We'll have to keep an eye on that because, again, the difference between minus 20 and minus 50 is really cold. So either way, it's going to be really cold next weekend. If you had plans, I would start to think of maybe alternate options for next weekend. Again, especially if it's outside. Frostbite and wind chills of minus 40 are around probably 8 to 15 minutes in length, especially on exposed skin. So you do want to be very, very careful next weekend if you do have plans outdoors. It is not going to be fun, but this is winter in Michigan. This is the reality we live in. Ultimately, I know we hate the permacloud. Hate's a strong word, but because we have Lake Michigan, it's producing these clouds. I mentioned this at the beginning of the live stream. It is our insulator. If we didn't have this permacloud, the temperatures that you see up there in northern Minnesota, over there in western Wisconsin, those temperatures would be flowing unimpeded straight into our portions of, especially the lower peninsula, where we have Lake Michigan kind of acting as a blocker, and to a point, to an extent, Lake Superior as well. So it will be very cold, and even with the insulation that we got next Friday, it's still going to be very cold. I mean, you can see here, perhaps even close to minus 40 for portions of the northern portion of the lower peninsula. So very, very cold. That is kind of the rundown for all of the next week. Again, as we move into Saturday and Sunday, it starts to clear out, but it will be super duper cold. Back to the radar, we'll go ahead and turn on our active alerts across the state. This is kind of the last thing I wanted to touch on. We added a lot of winter weather advisories at about the 3 o'clock update this afternoon, and that includes all of southeast Michigan. This is in effect until early Tuesday morning, primarily for 1 to 3 inches of snow, which you guys are saying, it's not a lot, but it does include those 40 to 45 mile per hour wind gusts and the brutally cold wind chills that we will be dealing with as we move into, especially on Tuesday morning, when those move into the southeast side of the state. We also added Isabella, Clinton, Gratiot, Ingham, Eaton, Calhoun, and Jackson counties to a winter weather advisory today. You'll notice if you're in Branch or Hillsdale County, you did not get a winter weather advisory. That is due to the fact that it is up to the jurisdiction of the Northern Indiana office. Again, Northern Indiana issues the alerts for Berrien, Cass, St. Joseph, Branch, and Hillsdale counties. So those 5, Northern Indiana's jurisdiction. So they just decided that while there will be snow in Branch and Hillsdale County, they are not expecting it to be advisory criteria. So stay safe out there. We also have, of course, the winter storm warnings that extend from Van Buren all the way up to the Grand Rapids area, all the way up to the northwest, and over here into the central and western UP as well. So this is going to be Alger, Marquette, and winter storm warnings as well up for Houghton, Keweenaw, Ontonagon, and Gogebic counties as well. So 5 counties up there. Sorry, I can't count. 6 counties up there in the UP, and about a good third of the counties in the lower peninsula of Michigan. Besides Branch and Hillsdale counties, the only other counties that do not have any alerts in the state this evening are portions of northeast lower Michigan, where they will get snow. Of course, they're getting snow right now, but totals will be generally lower. So Presque Isle got, I believe, Montmorency up there, Alpena, a lot of those other counties. Those ones are kind of leaving me right now, but I'll remember them when I look back at them. We also have Dickinson, Menominee counties, Delta, Schoolcraft, and Iron that are also not in any alerts tonight as well. So a good chunk of the state, probably about 85% of the counties in the state, do have some sort of winter weather alert in effect tonight. And in fact, we do have a cold weather advisory as well for Keweenaw County, as wind chills are expected to be as low as minus 25. Other than that, I will go ahead and open it up to questions, leave the radar looping for you guys here. And yeah, it's been a good briefing so far. I've been live for 30 minutes, and we'll go ahead and take questions as my cat wants to go out of the room. Let's go. Go. Go, go, go. I had a special guest in my room. I'll go back and actually look at some of the super chats here over on the YouTube side of things. I see JCB Music with 10 gifted memberships here. Thank you, JCB. Appreciate your support. Also with a $5 super chat saying, any idea on snow totals from about now to 3 a.m., asking us I have to leave for work at 3 a.m. and 3:30. Depends on where you're at in the state. Again, for the most part, this snow is starting to ramp up for the Clipper by around that midnight time frame. So totals will still be light, especially from the east side of the state. If you're on the west side of the state, totals between now and about 3:30 are going to be about that 2 to 4 range. So hopefully that helps out. Thank you again for that $5 super chat, and also becoming a member for month number 7. Cindy back for month number 19 as an EF3 member on YouTube, saying thank you, MSC, for all the updates. Stay warm, stay safe, everyone. Thank you, Cindy, very much. Welcome back for another month. Red Dozier with a $50 super chat saying, hello, everyone. If you're cold, dog equals personal furnace. Mr. Wonderful's in Atlanta and said it was only 40 down there. He saw a lot of trucks heading north with snow and ice on them. Yes, they did have a winter storm down there. Use that term loosely because, again, a winter storm warning for the Atlanta area is 1 to 3 inches of snow. They did have, technically, by their definition, a winter storm down there. So thank you, Red, for the super chat and letting us know what was all seen down there in the Georgia area. Ann, back for month number 8 as an EF0 member, saying appreciate you guys in the chat and the mods as well. Caden, back for month number 9, saying praying for a snow day in southern Eaton County. Hopefully you get what you want. Thank you, as always, to Caden, for backing us for another month. And our moderator, Justin, Rise Against, is joining us as a member. It's an EF3 member. So those are all the super chats. So I will just go ahead and read some of the most recent comments. Again, there's a lot coming in tonight. We have about 900 of you guys between Facebook, YouTube, X, and Twitch joining us tonight. Feel free to follow us on all of those platforms. I do appreciate your support. Yes, did you see potential for minus 50 feels like in western upper Michigan? Yes, that is possible as we get into this upcoming weekend. Again, those temperatures will be refined a little bit as we get into the short term, but just the general trend right now is wind chills of perhaps minus 40 for portions of the upper peninsula. And for some of these maps that I've been showing you guys, yes, as Hadley points out here in chat, they are up on our Facebook page. and our Instagram page and our X page. If you don't follow us on any of those platforms, we highly encourage you to, because you get to see the beautiful maps like, that was the wrong one, that was our wind chill calculation, like this. That's our snowfall map for tomorrow. We also have our traffic map for tomorrow, and we also have our wind map for tomorrow. So again, all of those over on Facebook right now. I guess I will bring this up. So for those who are curious about how the wind chill is actually calculated, this is what it looks like on a chart. So there's a complicated formula that gets inputted, and the values that insert into this formula are air temperature on one and the wind speed on the other. So depending on what the wind speed is and the air temperatures are, that is your wind chill. That's the temperature that you feel on your skin, because again, as warm-blooded human beings, we are more susceptible to these colder temperatures. So for example, on Tuesday, we may have a wind speed of, maybe 15 or 20 miles per hour with an air temperature of around 0 degrees. So that would be right on that cusp right there of minus 20, minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit. So take that into account. As you can see, it gets pretty extreme if you had like a minus 40 degree air temperature with a 60 mile per hour wind gust. That'd be a feels like temperature of minus 91. Or if you go on the lower end of things, a 15 degree temperature with a 5 degree wind speed is a 7 degree wind chill. So pretty cool chart to look at if you guys are curious. Off the top of my head, I do not know what the coldest wind chill is. Most schools do close at minus 20 here in Michigan if you're new here. That's kind of the cutoff. A couple districts do minus 15. It just depends on what each district does. This type of weather does affect air travel. I will tell you this, that airplanes, they do have de-icer that they apply to the airplane, so they're able to take off safely though. So they can take off and land in pretty cold temperatures. It really gets tricky, especially when it comes to snow though. Honestly, the snow is more of a hazard than the cold is. Yeah, Friday, if it feels like temperatures are looking the way they are, these wind chills of, minus 30 perhaps for Friday and minus 40 for the UP, we could see a couple closings for wind chill on Friday, but it's too early to tell right now. Again, as we get closer to Wednesday and Thursday, those values that you see kind of on a broad scale. So these model runs take, an average of a big area and compress them across one region. So as we get closer to the Wednesday, Thursday timeframe, those numbers will kind of become more refined in nature. And so they'll probably, warm up a little bit, but it's still pretty cold, even if we do get wind chills of minus 25, minus 30. And we have a lot of comments in here tonight, so if you guys are just joining us, we just took the first 30 minutes of this live stream to go over all the details. So I highly encourage you guys, if you have questions about some of the snowfall totals and the timing of this stuff, feel free to go back and rewatch the start of the live stream. I kind of went through that already, but again, for those who are just tuning in and want to kind of a little debrief, this clipper snow is moving in right now. It'll start to pick up overnight, really by the midnight time frame tonight, and especially as we move into tomorrow morning. Again, 1 to 3 inches for pretty much the entire state. Everything additional is going to be in lake effect nature. Drew's in chat here saying he's going to be out chasing tomorrow for us. Appreciate you, Drew. Yeah, we will start to clear up the precipitation by the start of this upcoming weekend. Again, because it's going to be so cold out there, it's going to be hard for snow to even form. It's going to be that really light snow. Again, the best temperatures for snow to develop at are between 1 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, as you guys may or may not know, the higher you get up in the atmosphere, the colder it gets. So if it's already, 5 degrees at the surface, and you get above the ground by 500,000 feet, the temperature is probably already below zero at that level. So it's very hard. It's called the DGZ, that dendritic growth zone between 1 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit. It's very, very shallow to the ground, and so it's really hard to formulate snow. It's really good because it's close to the ground, but it's very shallow. So it's, again, very hard to get these heavier snowfall amounts when it is so cold out. So if we can get these ground temperatures to be 15 to 20 degrees with the temperatures, about 500 feet, 1,000 feet above our head of 1 to 10 degrees, that's a great DGZ. And then we can get it to be super tall in nature. It's a lot of snow that's kind of formulating around the atmosphere and eventually falling out. So that's one thing to note for future reference, I guess. But with the lake effect that we're seeing this week, it's a little more refined in nature. And in fact, if you go ahead and look at the snowfall map, for those who are paying attention to our previous map, the 48-hour map that we released on Saturday, we did have higher totals across the Western UP. Now, with that cold weather coming in, we realized it was probably a little overdone, especially since we were referencing the HRRR run. We knocked them down a little bit. So instead of being widespread 6 to 12 with isolated spots of 12 to 20 across the Porcupine Mountains, it basically just got bumped down by one level. So other than that, the forecast from Saturday into Sunday is pretty much unchanged. A lot of this pink zone of 6 to 12 is not really changed much between the two maps. We did extend the 2 to 4, that little zone that you see down the 96 corridor from Lansing over to Brighton. That's expanded a little bit east, as there may be one lake effect band that kind of just outpaces the rest, makes it over to the east side of the state, especially as we move throughout the day on Monday. And so again, if you're traveling 96 tomorrow, you do want to be careful of that. Welcome in, everyone. A lot of people still joining us here tonight. Feel free to, again, hit that like button. It does help the streams very much. If you're not helping yourself, you're obviously helping fellow Michiganders, as this will push their content into their feed. I see Evan's in here as well. He will also be out chasing tomorrow. Appreciate you, Evan. Maybe Ben as well. Do you think Houghton, Michigan will ever get their own radar? At last check, there was a private company called Climavision that were planning to add, I think, 5 different radars to Michigan, especially in the dead zone. So the one they were planning to add, I believe, was somewhere in the western UP or very far northern Wisconsin. I believe it was around the Ironwood area. So it would help Houghton now. It wouldn't be right next to Houghton, but that'd be a good spot for a radar. So we'll have to see. I don't know when that's going to happen, but we'll plan on the future, hopefully. Will we get access to them? No, we will not. It's private. So if we had the big bands to purchase radar data like that from a private company, we would, but we can't. Hardest snowfall rates for West Michigan. So we'll go ahead and go back to the HRRR run. I know it's kind of a little overdone or overcooked, as we would say. But we'll go ahead and use this for an example because it does do a good job at least showing the kind of those snow curtains there. So precipitation type, and actually I need winter and 1 hour. So here we go. So anywhere where you see these blues kind of turning into the violets, this is your snowfall rates per hour. So 0.2 to 0.3 inches as we get towards midnight tonight. And as we move into tomorrow, it's kind of just scattered. It's kind of a consistent 0.2 to 0.5 throughout the day, or overnight tonight and through the day tomorrow. So that's that. In fact, I'll go back to the 18Z because I know you guys want to see the full run here. So here is, there we go. Here's 11. Here's midnight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock tomorrow, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's very low amounts. It's nothing really close to the inch per hour rates, but within those lake effect bands, we could have brief instances of 0.5 to 0.75, especially if you're up there north towards the center of the low where that clipper is situated. You could see that if you back it up here, that one band, especially in the Traverse City area, that's the spot you want to watch for a quick dump of snow over the next 24 hours here. But for the most part, again, because it's so cold outside, these flakes are going to be a little lighter in nature and they're going to blow around more. So those accumulations are going to be harder to get in terms of the higher amounts. But east side of the state, you can see it here in the clipper. So anywhere we see this gray is kind of where that clipper snow is moving through. So it's really, really light snow, not even 0.1 inch per hour. And that's why you guys over on the east side of the state aren't really going to get the higher rates that the west side are going to get. So it's anywhere between 0.05 and 0.1 inch per hour, which will accumulate to about 1 to 3 inches by the time we get through the end of the day on Monday. Sorry guys, the map is in the way. My bad. Figured you guys just want to look at the snowfall map there. I'll go ahead and back it up. So east side of the state, here you go. Here's the gray that I was talking about. You can see very little instances of 0.1 and 0.2 making it over to the east side within the clipper. All the gray is 0.1 or lower. So that's why you guys, again, as I mentioned, are only in the 1 to 3 zone. The only exceptions here are going to be where those lake effect bands do set up. Again, with the 40 to 45 mile per hour winds tomorrow, you absolutely just know that one of these lake effect bands is going to cross the entire state, and one simple location, it might be like 10 miles wide, we'll get probably 3 to 5 inches. So we'll keep an eye on that, and we will update throughout the day as we see those lake effect bands start to develop. Snow squall warnings, maybe. We could see maybe a couple snow squall warnings, but again, those are only confined to the east side of the state because the west side of the state does not issue snow squall warnings because it is lake effect, it's just typical lake effect snow, and we're used to it. So just be careful, especially if we're in areas where lake effect snow squall warnings are not issued. It's going to be near blizzard conditions for the entire day tomorrow, the 19th of January. Oh, yeah, you guys, that was another rumbling. This is one thing I did forget to mention. So the talks of a storm next weekend, for the most part, are crushed. So as it stands right now, here's your clipper for Wednesday. We'll go back to the radar again. Here's Thursday. And the time frame of the system next weekend is the Friday to Saturday time frame. So here is, if I can get that correctly here, here's Friday. Then there's Saturday, and then late on Saturday. So as you can see, at the bottom of the screen there, very bottom, right down by the winter storm warning bar there at the bottom, that is the system in question. It's so far south right now that it is basically south of Cincinnati. So it's really far south, and because it's so far south, that high pressure is able to build further south, and that's why we're getting those very, very cold temperatures this upcoming weekend. So if we can get the system to stay south, that means more cold for us, but if that system moves north, it's more snow, perhaps a little bit more warmth than expected. So again, we're still working out the details. As it stands right now, no major storm for next weekend. The main focus for this next weekend, I should say this upcoming weekend, as we're now kind of finishing up this current weekend that we're on, the main focus is going to be that cold next weekend. And in fact, I will go ahead and bring in our 7-day outlooks for you guys, just because I wanted to pull this in. So here's your 7-day outlook. This is for the entire portions of southern Michigan. And in fact, I'll go ahead and get rid of the bottom warning bar here just real quick. So this is your temperatures throughout the week. The high temperature is at the top, the low temperature is at the bottom. As you can see, nice week of teens and 20s, and you get to next weekend, temperatures will be in the single digits with low temperatures, actual temperatures near minus 15 degrees with wind chills possibly minus 25 to minus 35. And again, southern Michigan qualifies as anything from I-96 from Muskegon over to Lansing, and then I-69 from Lansing over to Port Huron, so Sarnia, Ontario there. So that is your border for southern Michigan. You go north of that border and you get to central Michigan. So this is the thumb. This is portions of the US 10 corridor, and it goes all the way up to the M55 corridor. So that's central Michigan for you guys. So thumb in central Michigan, north of 96, south of M55. Temperatures throughout the first 4 days of the week in the teens and 20s. Same story there. Next weekend, we get down into the single digits with low temperatures perhaps getting close to minus 20 and wind chills perhaps as low as minus 30 to minus 40. As it currently stands, of course, this will change throughout the week. Northern Michigan, same story here. Teens, not really any 20s in the forecast for northern Michigan. And again, this is north of M55. So this is up towards Gaylord and Grayling and Alpena and Sheboygan. And it also does include, what am I thinking of here? Mackinac and Chippewa counties in the UP. So the very far eastern UP. This is your temperature forecast. Coldest temperature on there, of course, going to be next Saturday, minus 4 with a low of minus 25. And wind chills, of course, between minus 30 and minus 40. And lastly, the Upper Peninsula. Temperatures not really getting above 10 degrees. There's a couple temperatures there. The next couple days, 12, 11. Low temperatures every single day this week in the Upper Peninsula, below zero. In fact, Friday into Saturday temperatures, the actual air temperatures could be as low as minus 25 degrees with wind chills, minus 35 to minus 45. So the Upper Peninsula is everything in the Upper Peninsula besides Chippewa and Mackinac counties, which are associated with northern Michigan. Once again, northern Michigan is north of M55. Central Michigan is south of M55, but north of 96 and I-69. And then southern Michigan is southeast Michigan and southwest Michigan, south of that border of I-69 and I-96 across from west to east across the state. So that is the 7 days. I'm checking on current road conditions out there. I know they've kind of started to deteriorate across west Michigan. Slow traffic all up and down I-196 right now, really north of South Haven up towards Holland. And this will just continue to get worse as we go throughout the night. Yes, please keep it respectable in chat. Our moderators are there for a reason. Any other last questions? While we have a moment, if anyone has any last questions, I'll go ahead and table through some of our sponsors here. Again, for timing, I see a question about timing. Again, it's going to be really any time between now and midnight when it's really going to start to pick up, and especially into tomorrow morning, so after midnight through the morning commute tomorrow. That's your peak timing for the worst travel conditions. So if you're just joining us, that's the main thing to know about this snow. Here is projected reflectivity once again at around 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So the darker the blues, the heavier the snow. Yeah, we'll go ahead and run through our sponsors here again. These sponsors or trusted partners are what keep us going here at Michigan Storm Chasers, so feel free to reach out to them for all of your really home improvement needs or any other services that you see on here. So we'll go ahead and run through. Feel free to take a screenshot as needed. We got Storm Guard, Metro Detroit North, servicing North Metro Detroit area, Oakland, Macomb, Washtenaw counties. Best option there for all of your roofing and siding needs. We move over into the Potterville area. The best place to get your roofing and siding done is with Katz Roofing and Siding there. Mike Hayes Roofing and Siding. They are based out of Sanilac and St. Clair counties in the Thumb. McKay Tree Specialist, #1 stop shop for all of your tree care needs in Southeast Michigan. And over in West Michigan, Kuiper Tree Care. Additionally, we also have On Top Roofing for all of your roofing needs across Livingston County and the US 23 corridor. Top Gun Roofing and Exteriors, based out of West Michigan. A-Class Construction and Restoration, based out of Mason County up there in Northwest Michigan, covering the Traverse City region. Rainbow Restoration, also covering West Michigan for all of your restoration needs. For all of your LTE wireless radio needs, we use these here at Michigan Storm Chasers. Feel free to turn to Rapid Radios. Guardian Technologies for all of your security camera needs. They are our host of our weather camera network here at Michigan Storm Chasers. We have 93 cameras, and it's all thanks to Guardian Technologies. If you're feeling generous, feel free to reach out to the Ronald McDonald House of Detroit, calling the number on the screen there. Donate to families in need today. American Arbor for all of your tree care needs across Southwest Michigan, covering Kalamazoo, Benton Harbor, and the likes. That is American Arbor. We also have Apex Restoration Mitigation. They cover the Genesee County area and the Thumb. Clear Plow. If you want to make shoveling easy on your driveway, Clear Plow is the number to call. They are locally owned and operated in Frankenmuth. And our two new sponsors here at Michigan Storm Chasers, Top Notch Tree Care, based out of the Lansing and Jackson area, and Crystal Flash for all of your fuel and propane delivery needs. Contact Crystal Flash today. Again, feel free to support those businesses that you see on the screen. We do appreciate them very, very much. Back to the comments here. Again, I see a comment about never answer my question. Again, there's a lot of comments coming in between both platforms. I should say all 4 platforms. We had about 900 people at peak here tonight watching at once, so they're kind of scrolling through. So again, now's your chance to ask any last questions. Feel free to repeat them if needed. It'll be ongoing pretty decently in the Eastern UP around 5 a.m. Yes, drive safe, check your battery life, have a kit in your vehicle, stay warm, and remember to keep your headlights on tomorrow as you drive during the day. Absolutely. Remember that auto option on your vehicles, it doesn't work in daytime. It only has running lights on, so your taillights don't show up, and your headlights aren't really that useful, so make sure you turn them on manually. Now, as a little bit of a disclaimer here, we cannot give travel advice on what time to go. we can just tell you on what time really the worst conditions are going to be, and that is going to be the morning commute tomorrow. If you're planning on traveling in the afternoon tomorrow anywhere in the state and the evening, it will still be pretty bad out there. But the worst travel conditions by far will be tomorrow morning, especially if you are in the red zones that you can see on your screen here, the major travel impact zones. So scattered travel impact zones, it's like a 50-50 shot. You have a good road or maybe a bad road. Red major zones, that's your near blizzard conditions, especially tomorrow morning. So all of these maps are updated as of right now. Again, these are the latest ones. So that snowfall map does cover through tomorrow. Now we will have an update. As I mentioned, this snowfall map will be updated tonight. It will be after this live stream. I'm going to be forecasting that snowfall. It will be uploaded on Patreon first, and it'll be out first thing tomorrow morning for those who are following us for free here on Facebook, Instagram, and X, where all of our forecast content is posted. So new snowfall map, for those who are just joining in here, will be out first thing tomorrow morning. It will be covering the rest of the day tomorrow and parts of Tuesday. So the totals will decrease most likely for all of these zones you see here because most of the snow is falling tonight. But again, if you're joining us here for the first time, snowfall map first thing tomorrow, which will cover through Tuesday. We will wait just another day to start talking about Wednesday. We'll have a first look at Wednesday probably on Tuesday morning. So keep that in mind. No problem, Rick. Appreciate that. So car safety kit, had a couple questions about this. First aid materials, first and foremost, bandages, your medications, you name it. Flashlight's good to have. Blanket, food, water, of course. Shovel if you need it. And I'm sure I'm missing a lot of things. I had a whole list earlier today, and I think I'm probably just blanking right now. But those are some of the necessities that you need. Again, if you get stranded, you do not want to leave your source of warmth. Now, the exception, of course, is if you're in a dangerous situation where your car is not in a safe place or the car is totaled or something like that. Again, every situation is different. But if you are able to stay in your car where you are stranded, that is the best option. You want to keep your warmth on you. Make sure, this is another disclaimer that came up today, is you want to make sure that your tailpipe, the back of your car, is cleared because you do not want to get carbon monoxide poisoning and then end up passing away that way. So keep that in mind. If you do get stranded, make sure your tailpipe is clear of snow and stay in your vehicle as long as it is safe to do so when it comes to getting stranded on these very, very cold days. Yeah, extra winter gear, yep, absolutely. Hand and toe warmers, of course, as well. Kitty litter, yep. So this is a question that we get all the time, not just today, but just in general. Why does it seem that all the forecasts across various outlets are different? Why do some of them have the radars north of Sioux cutting out parts of the storm? So first and foremost, I'll go ahead and answer that last question first. The reason why is because the radar coverage up here in the Sioux area is not great. There is a radar that's to your north and a radar that is over in Marquette. But other than that, there's kind of this dead zone in the eastern UP. So it's really hard to kind of see snow, especially at these lower levels of the atmosphere over in the eastern UP. It is snowing there, but the radar is basically overshooting these storms. To answer your first question, it is the job of the meteorologist to make their own forecast. We're not usually copying off someone else. We are all using pretty similar tools like the model runs that we show you guys. So these maps here, this map here, all these different maps, we are all using these same maps. So when we go back to Wednesday this week, everyone was using these same maps to make their own forecast. Because it was, for this example, because everyone busted in this event, I can use this as an example. Everyone missed that forecast on Wednesday for Southeast Michigan because these tools that we use, these model runs, did not forecast. They did not have the signs of that snow system that we're moving in. Now, because tonight there's a lot more kind of differences in between the models. Now you have all these different forecasts that are coming out. Whereas, compared to Wednesday where it was set in stone, no snow is going to fall, and suddenly all of a sudden the models pick up on the snow at the 11th hour. So the reason being, to kind of sum that all up, is each meteorologist forecasts differently. It depends on where they went to college to get the information they learned. Again, we're talking about not only these model runs, but the meat and bones of these model runs. So, for example, if I click on the map, I open a sounding. You also have to look at maps like these. So these are what's called the sounding. So all this data that you see here, all these fancy numbers and the profiles and stuff, these are also things that we also have to reference here as meteorologists. So it's just all stuff that we learned in our meteorology program at our different universities. It's all the same tactics when it comes to forecasting. But again, it just depends on certain biases that certain meteorologists use. So hopefully that answers your question. Again, each meteorologist is different, and each one likes to kind of, lean towards a certain model versus a different one. Yes, pipes can freeze, especially if you have exterior pipes on the outsides of your houses. I know a lot of people do drip their water, so they keep it running just ever so lightly. It's a good idea. But again, for those who are just tuning in, we went through everything in the first half hour of the stream, so I highly encourage you guys, if you missed the information, jump back to the beginning of the stream. Make sure to hit that like button as well and watch it from the beginning. A lot of information in there regarding the snow and the wind and the cold over the next 48 hours. But also we do have a clipper on Wednesday and cold moving in for Friday, Saturday. Again, another question was, do we have a big system coming in for this weekend? The current answer is no. That system is supposed to be moving to the south. As we get closer to Friday, though, we'll continue to watch for shifts in that system that may impact portions of the Ohio River Valley region. And if it does shift into Michigan, we'll be the first to let you know here at Michigan Storm Chasers if it is worth talking about. So avoid the hype out there. Again, we have pretty sensual forecasting. So stick with us. Again, we will not do the hype thing and stuff like that. People just like to post these model runs on Facebook. You guys have seen it all the time where they post these model runs that show the next 384 hours worth of snow. And it's like, well, that's great and all. Like, we know it's going to be snowy over the next 384 hours, but that doesn't do us any good for, the short term. So avoid, unless it's very clearly stated that this is a sarcastic post, do avoid pages that do post those model runs that go, 4 or 5 weeks into the future. So keep that in mind. But we got you covered. No problem, Molly. Don't see any more super chats, and the questions are starting to die down here. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. We will have updates on our page in terms of traffic, radar updates. We did actually have a X-flare from the sun today, so we'll also have an aurora update probably on the page here later tonight. Let you guys know that northern lights are possible within the next 48 hours. So it just depends on how much cloud cover we have in terms of this lake effect snow, if we can get out of the way in time. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll let you know. And we'll have more information on that solar flare here in just a second. But of course, as always, as the snow moves into the state, we'll have radar, traffic, storm chaser updates as well. Again, you saw in chat here, Drew and Evan are in chat tonight. They'll be out chasing tomorrow for us and getting content that you can see on our page. So it'll turn your inactive mindset into a reactive mindset. So do not see any other questions, so I'll go ahead and wrap things up here. Again, we've been live for an hour, so it's a good time to stop for the night. Again, thank you guys so much for joining me. Appreciate you. I know there's some other better things to do on a Sunday night, but for those who have tuned in, thank you guys very much. Thank you guys for following us if you're new here. We hope you find us useful in the future. Welcome to the family if you are a new subscriber or follower. And we'll catch you back here once again at Michigan Storm Chasers for a future live stream, briefing, or anything of the sorts. Have a great rest of your evening, everyone. Stay warm, stay safe on the roads, and we'll talk to you soon.